All right, so we are going to be doing a demonstration of this shaft guide. And so what I have here, and this is in inches, I have the previous file, the swivel base with all the layers here. And I have that for a reason, because I'm gonna essentially export these out and import them into my new file so I don't have to make these. Notice that my layers have the colors, they have the line type, they have everything that I need, and line weight. So I don't have to create my new layers. So the way that you do that is you go within your layers and you select Layer States Manager. And then what you want to do is export your layers. So I'm going to say, first I'll say new layers, and I'll call this layers because I already have one in there. I'll call this layer 2. Okay. And then I'll export that out. And I'm going to just put it in default documents. And notice it's a .las, save it, close this. And now I'll create my new drawing. And this is going to be for the shaft guide. And it's in inches. So that's good here. And I'll say imperial. Okay. And a little trick that you really have to pay attention to is, I don't know if it's a bug, but your line type, you have to preload this. So you want to go in before you do anything and say load, and then go Control A and say okay. And then that should be fine. And what that does is you have all the preloaded types of line types in there. And so when I have a hidden line, I don't have to select it. Now what I'll do is I'll go to the reverse process, Layer States Manager, and I'll import it in. Make sure that you change it from a .dwg to a .las. And it's in the same default folder. And this is layer 2. Excuse me, restore states. And what you'll notice is everything is in here, the line types. So if I clicked on hidden, there it is. It's all preset from my previous one. This can be very advantageous, especially if you're kind of continuing, fixing things. You can just import the last version of it. Okay, so I'm all set to go here. Now what I need to do is draw this. I'm going to make my construction line my current layer. That's going to be my active layer, and I'll turn that on. And I'll just make sure all my layers are turned on. The other thing I would also notice is sometimes students get confused. They'll accidentally turn off the plot and they'll print and nothing is there, like the object, and they don't know why. And generally that's because you have you might want to turn off, rather than turn off the, you might want to, instead of having turn off the construction line, you can always just turn it off. So it's there all the time. You don't have to go in layers and it just doesn't print, right? So that's something you could do. I'll just turn this off and we'll see what that looks like in a little bit. So right now my construction line layer is active. Construction lines are not necessarily something that you would be showing people. It's the reference I've used recently is it's like a building, a scaffold. You're building a building, you need the scaffolding to put the windows and sheetrock and all that, or whatever you're doing to the outside or inside of the house. But when your house is done, you would never show the client the scaffolding, right? So the construction lines is just to help you. So what I'm going to do here is looking at the shaft guide, the 5-inch, the size with the most mass is going to be my front. And then obviously this will be my top view. So what I'll do here is I'll go to my construction lines and I will just go ahead and type in 0,0, enter. And then you've got to be very careful. I've messed this up before, that when you do these construction lines, if you notice, you really want to make sure that your snap settings are accurate, and you do these at 90-degree increments. All right, so there we go. And so now what I'll do is I have my 2, and I'm just going to start offsetting. I don't necessarily need to do that again. So I'll either type in offset or go to the ribbon above. And so you can either type it in now or click down the through, but this will be, I'll type in 5 for 5 inches. And this is going to be the width of my front view is 5 inches. And then the height of this thing is a total of 1.5. You got to be very careful that you're looking at this. It's 1.5 plus the height is 0.75, 1.5, which is here, plus 0.75. And that's going to give you 2.25. All right, so my height is going to be 2.25. Hopefully that's right. So I'll just type in 2.25, enter. And that's going to be the height of the object, which is 0.75 plus 1.5 equals 2.25. And now I'll just give it an inch between the two. So I'll type in 1. And then the width of this from the top view is going to be 3 inches. So offset, select the object, type 3 and 3 inches. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and put the dimensions on here. Again, this is not something that I would be ever showing people, but this is just to verify for myself what I'm doing so that I don't get my start drawing and realizing I did it wrong. So you always want to just double check what you're doing. All right, so I feel like I'm in a good place here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and start drawing this. I'm going to draw the height of this thing at 0.75. So let's go ahead and just make sure we get the offset for this, 0.75. All right, so now I can go ahead. Oh, hold on, please. Recording. Okay, so here I am. We've got the height. Let's just verify that at 0.75. And then students have asked why the 1 inch. It's kind of arbitrary, other than you just want to make sure you have enough room to dimension. But if I have 1 inch between the front view and the top view, I would want to have 1 inch between the front view and either the side view on the right or left. Okay, so let's build this. So what I typically do here is, I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just show you, I would build a rectangle here representing this part, the front. And what I would do is quickly just throw it in my properties into my layer of the object layer. And you can see it right there. Now, what I need to draw is this front view. So what I'll go ahead and do is, I think I've got to do a little bit of math. It says it's 1.5 in the center. So I think what I'll do to make this easy on myself is I'll just put a line in here at 2.5. And remember, this is construction line. So I'm going to go ahead and offset this, and I'll say 2.5. That'll give me my middle of this, and then I can work my way out because I'm kind of working on the fly here. So what I want to do is draw this 1.5. So I'll say offset again, and I'm going to go 0.75 on one side, and then 0.75 on the other side. And that's going to be this piece right here. While I'm here, it's going to be a little tricky, that radius 0.75, but that tells me that from the bottom, it's down 0.75. So let's do another offset. So this slice here is 0.75 down. So I would go here to my offset, type in, again, it's 0.75. That's the radius. Select this, and that would be the bottom of that slice. It also has a depth of this little cutout that's 0.25. So let's go the offset here. And you have to be careful that you don't have too many construction lines. Otherwise, you forget what all these lines are for. So let's go ahead and just start drawing this out here. And I can just use the rectangle from these views. You just got to be careful you're snapping it at the correct place. And I've got one there. And then I'm going to, well, let's go ahead and just throw that in the object line so you can see what I'm doing. I find that this is the easiest way to go to my layers, and the layers are already set with a line weight, the color, so it makes it super, super easy. So now I'm going to come up here. All right, the other thing I need to figure out is the width of this cutout here, this groove. It says it's 0.5. So let's do the offset here of 0.25, and I'll go to the right and to the left. And so what I should do then now is just take this line, and I'm going to go all the way up, over, down. All right, so what I'm doing is following this all the way around. And so let's go ahead and throw that into my object lines. And so that is that. I have a hidden line here. I can deal with that in a little bit. So let's just see. I think I have the main part without the construction lines for the center. So let's go ahead and draw this hole. So I'll go ahead and I'll offset I don't need this construction line, so I think I'm just going to delete it. I can always add it back later. So now what I need to do is draw this hole, and I'll just go again to my construction line, or actually let's just go to the offset. select this. The distance is at 0.5 is to the center, is what it's telling me. So that's the center of the hole. And then it says the diameter of the hole is 0.5. So I will then draw, let's go ahead and draw this one. That's the one left. And then let's do this again. I'm going to put this one and I'm going to move this over 0.25. All right. And then I'll do that again. And so what I've done is I've drawn what's going to be this. And remember, I'm doing it on the top two, which is going to be very helpful. And I'm going to draw the hidden lines. What I could do it now, but let's just do the construction lines first. So let's go to the top view here, and I'll draw a rectangle. And this is the whole part of the body. Let's throw this into the object so we see what's going on. And then I'm going to type in fillet, not fillet. It's not a steak, fillet. Enter. And it says that the radius is 0.25. So let's go down here and go to radius and type in 0.25. Enter. And select the first object, second object. And I'm just going to keep hitting enter and reading my what it tells me to do. All right. Cool. All right. So that looks good. I don't need to show that radius down here. Let's also get the hidden line for the center of the circle in the top view. So let's go to offset, and it's going to be the same. It should be. So this one I'm going to go, it says it's 0.5. So type in 0.5, enter. All right. So that's that line. Let's do the back one. 0.5. Now let's do the same thing. I got to draw these holes. So this one, I'll say 0.25. I'll do this 4 times. Okay, so while we're here, let's go ahead and draw the circles, the 4 circles here. So I'll center the radius. And what I recommend you do is just make sure that it's giving you the right number. So it should say 0.25, because you can get really happy clicking away, and then you find out that you're clicking to something that you shouldn't be clicking to. All right, so there's going to be my holes. And so I could just go like this. Let's put this into my object. Come on, object. There we go. All right, so far so good. Now let's draw this big mass. So it's telling me that it's 2 inches. But if you look very closely, this should be 2 inches right here. So let's just quickly dimension this. This should be 2 inches if I'm reading this correctly. To the center, sorry. So that means that the center of these holes, let's just see if I can verify that here. And again, these are not my dimensions that I'm going to be using later. Okay, so that's 2 inches. So essentially what that's telling me is this rectangle piece is 2 inches by the width here. So what that means is I can take a rectangle here and I can come up here and just make sure that I am going to the lines that it's giving me. All right, so let's go here. Again, throw this into my object to help me figure out what I'm doing here. This is a little tricky because this radius is 0.75, so I need to offset this line here. So let's go offset, distance of 0.75 because that's the radius. And so that's going to be there. Now I'm getting myself a little confused. So again, it's probably easier that I'm just making my part lines as I go along here. All right. What I mean by that is I know I might have to do another view here because this slot is coming forward. So how do I know the angle of that? I might have to do a right view to determine that. I'm not sure how else I can figure that out. And what I mean is that slot, it's sloped. So if I don't, it's probably somewhere like right here is where the slot is. But I don't know, and I don't think I have enough information to do this without having the side view corresponding. I don't think I can figure that out. Okay, so, but while we're here, let's go ahead and draw, well, you know what, let's, I think rather than start drawing all my hidden lines. Let's do all the construction lines we can. So now this line actually wouldn't be here. So what I would do, and we'll find that out when we, all right. So because it actually extends beyond, and we'll figure that, we'll show you that. I'm going to have to draw the side view. I don't see how else I could do this. All right, so here's this line, my object. Okay, so what I mean is that if you look at this slot here, it comes, because it's curved, it's actually coming forward. So all I have left here, some hidden lines here. I can do those in a minute, but let's, to expedite this, let's go ahead and draw my right view here. And so again, I want to make sure that I'm doing the exact same distance, that's 1 inch. And then this is going to be the same. If I said that that's 3 inches, the width from the top, or the depth, that means the depth is going to be the same on the side view. So I know that I can just type in 3, select this part here, come over 3. And so fortunately, a lot of these lines are going to be the same. So did I do that right? I feel like I didn't do that right. Let's try that again. I don't know where my line went. Offset 3. There it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and just kind of build this out as quickly as we can so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. All right, so this is going to be this side here. All right, I know the height, but I need to figure out the center here. So go offset. Basically, it's going to be the same as, so it says the back, it's going to be, we said it's 0.5 inches, so I'll type in 0.5. All right, I should probably start throwing some dimensions for you guys. It might help you out here so you can see what I'm doing. All right, but let's keep building this. All right, so what that tells me, that is that overall object. So all I know here is that looking, I'm going to draw this coming down, over, up, and across. So this is comes up right at that point here. So what this line should be let's check that dimension here, but let's go ahead and put this in the object. And then comes from this side over, this back side comes up, and it comes to the top, and then it comes over, and I don't know how far over it comes. I don't have that information. Oh, actually, it's right there. All right, so let's go ahead and know that's the advantage with making construction lines. My top line. All right, so what it says here, do we know how far over that is? Yes, we do, because it's actually the radius. So what we know is that it comes here, 0.75, and then up to the top there. So that is the radius there. So this should be a circle. Let's double check that here. So that should be a circle of 0.75. So I'll type in trim. All right, so this will be going to my, and we'll double check this as we go on here. What I really should have done is drawn a construction line. Here's my construction line. Oh, yeah, okay. And then I'll draw a line over here. Okay, so typically what you do on these kind of construction lines is you would draw a 45-degree line, construction line through the part. So that should be, if this is accurate, good, that's 45 degrees. So what's going on here is that you can come up and over. So this comes up and over. So what I was saying was this slot here, I'm going to draw this slot, and that's what I needed to find out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the thickness of that line weight. That'll help me. If you see right here, this is what I'm looking for, this little space here. So I think that's what I'm looking, that is what I'm looking for. So there's a slot that comes down, it comes off the front of this curve. So it's only, let's see, we can measure it. We wouldn't measure it because it's not relevant, but it's 0.05, so 0.5 thou inch is what that is. But I need to show that on the top view, and there's no way that I could determine that. So what I'll do is I will make a construction line here, and let's snap it on that point. Make sure it's at an increment of 290 degrees. And then what I'll do is I'll come up and over. So that's what I was trying to figure out here. So that means that that line has to be the same. So whatever that is. And so I guess, boy, how would I do this? I guess I could just draw this line, rotate it. There's probably a better way to do this, but I'm just trying to do this quickly. Not sure if you can see what I'm doing here. Do that again. So I'd be taking this line and I'm going to rotate it to the right, which is minus 90. And so let's see, there's a line. So what I'm going to do is just draw another construction line. This looks more complicated than it really is, but let's just do it right here. Okay, and what that does is it tells me that is how far this line comes out. That was a lot of work just to get this little line here. All right, so now I know where this line is. And let's throw that into the object line. All right, and so just so you can see, let's make it thicker and you can see what's going on here. All right. All right, so I think I have, now I need to draw the hidden lines, but I think the part lines, I have everything I need to build this. So let's go ahead and add a couple more construction line for these circles. I'm just gonna have to, the only way you could do this drawing is to show it in the 3 views if you're gonna show the top view. So let's go ahead and offset for the holes here. So let's check these dimensions, 0.5, that's where the center of these holes are. So let's offset this 0.25 because that's the diameter is 0.5. So 0.25, and this will be my hidden line. Okay, so a lot of lines there, but that's good. I need these lines. Now let's go ahead and start drawing. First I'll do, I like to do this all at once. So I'm going to draw these lines here, and these will be my my hidden lines, and I'll start with these holes here. So essentially what I'm going to do is I just made these lines, and I'll take them and I'll drag them over and make them my hidden lines. And so if I turn my construction layer off, there they are, right? So I'm going to need my construction line on to do this, but you can see what I'm doing here. All right, so let's make some more of these. So I could mirror it, to be honest with you, but it's probably better just to draw this just as fast. All right. You know, you can just push Enter 2, and that'll do the last command. It might be easier, you know, if you had that layer selected, but I just prefer doing it this way. So then what I'll do is I'll select these lines that I made here, and I will, oh, darn it. And I will make them hidden lines. All right, let's turn that back to my construction line. Be careful, you don't click too happily. All right, so you see what I'm doing here, turn off the construction line layer. And there's my hidden lines. I'm going to need center lines. I'm also going to need one more horizontal line. So let's draw that. So the horizontal line here is going to be, do I know how to do it from the top? From the top view, it's 0.75 in. So that'll help me. Let's draw these construction lines again. All right, so boy, that's what happens when you get too many lines. It can get a little confusing. So what I need to do is draw a line that's 0.75 in from this point here. So let's go offset and 0.75. I got to be really careful that I'm watching what I'm doing here. Okay, that is the center. So why don't I just do this right now? Let's go ahead and draw a center line on this part here so I don't get too confused. So it's not a hidden line, it's going to be a center line. All right, I'm going to make this a center line. All right, let's just verify that dimension because there's so many lines here, I'm getting myself confused. So that should be 0.75 back from the part, sure enough. And so what I'm drawing the center of that hole. So now I'm going to offset this by 0.25. So go ahead and offset this center line that I just did by 0.25. Little nitty gritty stuff here. And sorry, offset, do that again. Oh, that's because I'm selecting the dimensions. I be very careful when I do that. So this is through. Line is this one, 0.25. Do the same thing. And that's that existing line here. So this is going to be my hidden line right here. Be very careful when you do these hidden line. All right, so that's my hidden line. So it's not a bad idea as you go along just to turn the construction lines off just as you're going. All right, so that's the construction line going through there. I think on the top view, I'm showing all the lines I need to show. All right, now I'm going to want to make center marks. So, you know, if you want to make the center mark, the thing to do is you go to dimension, you select the center mark, and you just select the objects you want to center mark. Now it's going to default to the layer that it's on. So you know, like, where did it go? It's actually there. So what I would probably do here is turn the construction layer off, and then maybe turn on my center mark as my center line as my active layer. And then I would say center mark dimension. All right, you can see how it's going. And I'm just hitting enter. Okay, cool. All right, so that's good here. Now let's go ahead and do the, we need to draw the hole here. So a couple ways I can do it. I can remeasure it, or I could just look at my construction line, see if I can figure it out that way. So what I would do then is, if I was going to figure it out for my construction lines, rather than do the math, I would come over here, I would take this line, go all the way over till it hits the 45-degree angle. And so that's already there. The center mark is going to go all the way to 45, and that's going to be there. If you notice, it's in the wrong layer because I made it the wrong layer. That's okay. We'll just turn that back. And then this one would be right here all the way over till it hits a 45, and then down. Oh, come on, snap it correctly. So this is why you build this way. Now, if it was me, I would probably just build this 3D, but that's not what this is all about. We're doing 2D. All right, so select these two lines, put them in my construction, and then I'll make my hole. Come here. All right, let's turn my construction as my active layer. All right, and then let's figure out here. It says that the hole here is 0.75 up. So let's just see what this is. This 0.75 up? Yeah, that's 0.75. So what I could do then is, rather than make another construction line, I'm actually going to need it, but let's go ahead and center comes over and down. So that's going to be the diameter of that hole. So that's cool. But I do need to draw the hidden line over here. So what I could do, though, is go to my center mark, and I could say this is going to be 0.25 up. You know, I should just do the offset. and 0.25. And do the same on the bottom. And so this is going to be my hidden line over here. Okay, so we're making some progress here. So this line is my object line. And then this hidden line here would go right here, going all the way through the part, all the way through the part. And then if you were going to draw the center line, you would come back here, you'll go through the part. So let's go ahead and draw, make these our center marks, our hidden lines, excuse me. So these are going to be these hidden line. And then this longer line that I just made here will be my center line. Okay, so let's turn the construction layers off so we can see what we're doing here. Okay, so let's go ahead and again, let's make our center line the active layer, and I'll draw the center mark for the circle, dimension, center mark. All right, so I think I've got most, oh, I need the center mark here. Now I could cheat here. What I could do is just come over here and draw my center line. And I could cheat again and just type in mirror. And I'll just double check it when I have there's the part. The center is going to be right here. And there it is. Let's do the same over here. I know that it's the center. I'm kind of cheating, but that's okay. What I mean is we know that this is the center of that part. So you would show the object, not the hidden line there. That is the more important part. But let's go ahead and mirror that. Okay. And it wouldn't be a bad idea just to double check it with, do that again. I erased it. Mirror. Got to be really careful that you're reading everything as you go along. Do I want to delete it? No, I don't want to delete the source object, so push enter. Okay, so there's a lot more I can do here. I obviously need to add the dimensions. Let's check let's turn the construction line back on just to verify that all the lines jive properly. Looks good. So now what I would do is, let's go ahead and dimension this. I'm going to make my dimension my active layer. And I think I'm going to turn off the construction line just for her now because it's a little too much information. Okay, so this is fairly straightforward here. So what I'll do is let's go ahead and dimension this. Feel like this is that's okay. All right. So while I'm here, let's just couple things. Let's go ahead and make this the same, which is at hundredths. So I go to my format, dimension style, modify, precision, hundredths, and then it has, if you look there, or 0.25, the 0 has been suppressed, and say okay, set current, close. There we go. Less is more. So remember, especially on a 3D, you just need to give the dimensions for the part that you don't need to put it on everything. So if I draw it down here, we shouldn't have to draw it on the top view. All right. So you just want to clean this up as you go along here. You know, in theory, these should be the same level. There's actually it's like there's actually a height should be, but we'll just, that's why that gap is really important if since you're going to be doing a lot. And there's no reason why. So typically you would probably put the dimension here though. Oops, for that center, or you could do it up above. You just don't want to have somebody having to chase around your dimensions, trying to figure out where it is. So that looks right. You just have to be, again, that's why you probably want a little bit more space in between. You don't typically want the dimensions touching, but let's keep just motoring along here. So what I mean is if I'm dimensioning that this is 5 inches from the top view, I don't need to draw it on the front view. Same thing on the side view. But things that I'd want to do is you don't ever want to dimension hidden lines. So for example, this is where you would do the radius, right? You wouldn't put a radius here, wouldn't make any sense. And then the diameter of this hole, you wouldn't dimension a hidden line, you would dimension the part line. Oop. So and remember, if you're showing a complete circle, you're going to dimension it as a diameter, not as a radius. And then I'll get a couple more dimensions here. Remember, for example, if I dimension this part here, I would not dimension it on the corresponding view. That's the thing about these, right? If it's a true side view, it would have to be that dimension. All right, so center of the holes, though, I'd want to show that. And so what the book does, for example, is it says 0.25 for one of the radiuses, and that way we know that's what all the radiuses are on the top. So you could do things like that. Typically, you would say typical. All right, so 0.5. And then we'd want to say, I'm probably not doing this the most efficient way. So 0.5. Typically, the overall dimensions are on the outside. All right, I'll just bang this out as best I can here. All right. Okay. Probably not a bad idea to draw the dimension on the top view too. All right. I think this lesson is essentially over here, but I will try to get as much information as I can before I finish this. So I just want to make sure I've got all the necessary information here. I know I'm still missing things. I'm doing this on the fly here, so you just got to be aware of that. So for example, the center of this, you want to take your time. You don't need this dimension, because if you know that this overall dimension is 2 inches and that radius, that's all the information you would need. So let's just make sure I'm showing that this is 2 inches. Let's show it here. Oh, if that's 2.25, I may be very upset with myself. Oh, for gosh sakes. Okay, we'll pretend that that worked. Okay, so I see where my error was, but it's okay. We can fix it real easy. So the back side should be 0.5. That's okay. Yeah, so right there. So I don't have to do anything except let's go back to our construction line. So this is actually a blessing here because I've got the construction line. All I need to do is just move this down to the center. Easy peasy. All right, so you just want to be very, take your time and snap these properly. All right, so that's the beauty of these construction lines and dimensioning. You can just verify all your parts here. Let's turn these construction lines off again. And now let's dimension that part. Whew, that could have been a disaster for my demonstration, but it all worked out here. All right, so I think we're pretty much good here. I don't need to throw this, this 1.5 in there. What you would actually typically do in something like this is you would leave one of them open, and then you would dimension the overall part here. This is typically how you would do it. And then it would be self-evident that this is 0.5 in between. So that would be the way that you would do it. I'm probably missing some dimensions here. Where did my center line go here? Let's just do a mirror real quick. Again, I'm doing this on the fly, so I'm sure I'm missing something. Hang on here. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to show you before we wrap this up is I'm going to turn the construction line back on, but you'll notice that I have the plot off. And so in theory, what I should be able to do then is go in and plot this, Control P, because you don't actually print in CAD, you plot, and select my, I'll do my AutoCAD, and I'll go ahead and do window, and I'll just select here. And if this works properly, all the construction lines, let's center it, this because I'm not doing this to scale, preview. Let's see what happens. There you go. See, so if you notice, because I had that construction line turned off in the print, all right, so let's save it. And so I'll find a folder for it, and then we'll be done with this. Okay, so this one is the shaft guide. All right, and that is the end of the lesson. So, and then we could inspect this a little bit more clearly. And there we go. And I'm complete. I'm probably missing a couple here, but I think you get the idea.